Great presentation. One comment before going further. I think one of the issues is not whether we can design green or whether we could power the U.S. or the world by renewable energy. I think we know that we could. It's not a political, it's not an economic issue or any longer necessarily a technological issue. It really is fundamentally a matter of political will and the desire to go ahead and do it. And one of the big chasms that we have to cross is an equity chasm. This may sound like Bernie Sanders for a moment, and I don't mean to do that, but you could put 400 people in this room with a bit of stretching, and they would have more net wealth than the bottom 185 million Americans. And worldwide, it'd be 62 people with net worth greater than 3.5 billion people. And that isn't going to work. So if we're serious about making this transition to renewable energy, it has to cross the equity threshold. It's got to engage everybody in manufacturing, installation, and the benefits and the investment. And so if this event had been held in Detroit, or if this event ever were held in Detroit, or Mumbai, or a number of other places, it would be a different kind of conversation. But our next speaker, Carla Walker-Miller, is in Detroit. She's president of Walker-Miller Energy. She's helping to rebuild the energy systems of Detroit. And if you haven't been to Detroit, please come to the Rust Belt sometime. Come to Flint, Michigan, and Detroit, and Toledo, and Cleveland, and Youngstown. That was, again, the heart of the U.S. economy 50 years ago. And we disinvested in it, not because the people were bad or the opportunities weren't there. We just disinvested in it for lots of other reasons. Carla is one of the people trying to bring money back in and restore Detroit sustainably and renewably. Welcome, please, Carla.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I understand the power of the podium. I don't take my presence here lightly, and I'd like to thank Donna Stallings, my colleague from Detroit, and Chip Cummins for allowing me this platform. What I'm going to talk about is a little different than what I originally started to talk about, because you all have it. This is a congregation of believers, so you get it. I, as a gap finder, I'm going to try to give you from my heart the part that you may not have right now. So the story of Detroit is not what you think. As a Nashville, Tennessee native, I heard the stories of Detroit. It's not what you think, and it's exactly what you think, depending on what you think. But like every disenfranchised urban center, Detroit's story is complicated. Books have been written about why, what caused the disinvestment in Detroit. And there isn't one answer. There's not one thing. There are thousands of little things, including the total social, an element of the social construct. So we don't get the totality, but there were many levels of individual thinking and group thinking that led to that disinvestment. And not just the disinvestment, but the national disrespect of what was once and still is a great American city. Judgment played a large role in what happened to Detroit and in so many of our urban centers. And I pray that that same level of judgment does not infiltrate the revitalization of Detroit. So how do we know the revitalization is real? The same thing. It's not one or two things happening in Detroit. I've been in Detroit for 26 years, and we've had false starts for that whole time and even before that. But it's the same thing. It's not one thing. There are 1,000 little things going on in Detroit, and Detroit is hip and Detroit is cool. Detroit is being revitalized brick by brick, but it's not being rebuilt in a manner that's sustainable. I'm happy about the revitalization. The level of investment in Detroit right now is unprecedented. But I'm also concerned. I'm happy and proud that people are finally recognizing the opportunity that Detroit is. But I'm also afraid because the reality is with the success of Detroit, many of the people who stayed and helped Detroit so that it didn't fall any lower than it already was are being left out of the revitalization. And that really brings me to this room. I am totally aware of the essence of power in this room. I'm aware of the knowledge, the influence, the ability in this room to really make change. Change, the type of change we need right now, cannot be made in rooms like this. We can discuss and we can go to our individual corners and do great things. But what Detroit needs in order to have a real revitalization that reaches the neighborhoods is for this room to look different than it looks right now. Right now, we are the planners. We are the planner class, right? We are the innovators. But it's not the right thing to do to plan and innovate without the involvement of the community. That's how Detroit, that's how the disinvestment began. The community wasn't involved. And the reinvestment is actually running many Detroiters, many low-income people, many people of diverse cultures out of the city because now Detroit is hot and Detroit is cool. What I would like to see, and this is, let me just preface this with, this is an incredible conference. The energy is incredible. I could do so much business in this conference right now. It's amazing. But what is our goal? Our goal is really to accelerate sustainable development. Right now in Detroit, the rebuilding is not green, it's not clean, it's not inexpensive. It's still largely based on first cost. People sell what they have. So if they've always done construction a particular way, it's hard to change that. If they've always sold asphalt, it's hard to sell permeable surfaces. If they've always done a different type, one type of sewer, it's hard to change what people do if they're making money at it. And all of this development, the motive really is money. And the people who have money in and around Detroit are the people who have money in the United States. So they're the ones making the decisions. So what I want to appeal to you is to become more uncomfortable, even at this important meeting, by bringing people in who are not part of your organic environment, because that's how you escalate the adoption of energy efficient behaviors, the adoption of renewable energy, the adoption of innovation and sustainable solutions. There are a lot more consumers than innovators, but until they get the gospel, and they have to get the gospel from us, until there's a critical mass of people who aren't like the people in this room, white, middle-aged, good-hearted people, we're not going to get the traction that we really need to make a difference, not just in cities like Detroit, but all over the country. So I have something that I've been saying, and I usually use it for when I'm talking to people about diversity and inclusion. But it's the same. The answer is the same. Lean out. Make yourselves uncomfortable reaching out, going to different environments, not just globally, because actually I think this room is more globally diverse than anything else. I'm really impressed with the global diversity. But we need every foot on the street to get the energy gospel. Starting with energy efficiency, I have to say, there's nothing sexy about energy efficiency, okay? I really admit that. But the energy burden in this country is so hurtful to so many households and so many businesses that we have to get that straight. Detroit is being rebuilt beautifully, but not sustainably. It's being built beautifully, but not in a way that is going to allow people to put money back into the communities instead of sending it to the utilities. If you add the cost of electricity, water, gas, and transportation fuels to most of the homes in Detroit, then it is an incredible burden. It's a burden that dwarfs the incomes because Detroit is, by and large, a low-income population. So, again, I'm asking you all to lean out, reach out to people who maybe don't look as much like you, but have good hearts, have the same goal, are enthusiastic about energy. And maybe you can have like a mid-year AREDAY in a city like Detroit, where we could really make a difference, and we could spur that development with community engagement and doing the right thing for the right reasons. That's all I have. Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Hello, Carla. Welcome.
Hello, Donna.
Colleague of Carla's. But could you just talk briefly about what Walker Miller Energy is doing with the city of Detroit in regards to the solar array?
Yeah, a couple of things. I want to make one more point. Solar is really booming in Michigan, even though a lot of people keep saying there's not enough sun. We know that's not true. But there's not one certified solar panel installer in Detroit, and we're going to change that. But DTE Energy is putting a 2-megawatt solar array in a neighborhood in Detroit that probably has about 1,000 lots and maybe 300 to 400 people, meaning that there's a lot of uninhabitable homes there. There are many homes that have to be demolished. And there was originally resistance from the community to having that solar array sited there because the community felt like here you all are putting some more junk, putting some more infrastructure, worthless infrastructure in our neighborhood next to our homes and our businesses. So I saw that as such a huge opportunity that along with Maurice Cox, who's over planning and development, convinced the city that we could actually embrace this community and bring them into solar, bring them into alternative and renewable energy, bring them into the energy waste reduction dialogue by providing services such as air sealing and insulation, the unsexy things about energy efficiency, lighting, workforce development, and training, and making them really ambassadors for that 2-megawatt solar array. The other thing is DTE Energy agreed to make that site a site for schools and museums for education center. And we're also kicking off STEM programs for that really marginalized community. So it's exciting, and it's going to change the lives of the people in that community. Even though they resisted at first, they're now starting to get it that, wow, this really could be good. So if we're making it the most energy efficient quarter mile in the city of Detroit, which doesn't take much, I'll tell you that right now. But it's a good story, and it's a story that needs to be replicated. The other thing is that there's so many people asking about community solar and solar independent, and they're coming to me. A lot of them are coming to me. And I always bring them back to energy efficiency first so that your solar panel or whatever the solution is for your home is the right solution. But the energy is there. You all would love it, really. Yes?
Are you doing anything with financing, or are there any financing programs available for low income to facilitate efficiency or renewable development?
So in 2008, the Public Service Commission mandated that all the utilities had to decrease the energy usage of their current customers. So since 2008, we've made great strides. Now the legislature is kind of talking about whether they don't have the stomach for mandates. But we're talking about up to 30% of energy waste reduction, really affecting the capacity of the utility capacity and the consumers in Detroit. But we also have PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing, which is not going like gangbusters right now for a couple of reasons. And there are programs like Michigan Saves and Better Buildings for Michigan that allow anywhere from 0% financing to a competitive market rate of financing. But we have to educate the consumers to know that one investment in energy efficiency makes a difference for the life of that building. Yes.
Oh.
Question?
So I actually visited Detroit not too long ago, and so I really thought it was a really neat city. But one of the, I guess my question is, you seem to kind of allude to, I think, gentrification when you're talking about people kind of investing in the city, but not necessarily incorporating all the people who currently live there. And so I'm curious, what do you see is the balance, or how do you think, like, what in an ideal situation, what does that look like for people to invest in Detroit in a way that also is inclusive of the people that live there and call it home?
Thank you for that question. So the city is really making, I must say, a concerted effort into the neighborhoods now, because downtown and midtown are just wonderful. But anyone who comes to Detroit has to want to invest in the neighborhoods and be intentional about committing resources and mostly effort to identifying people that can come in. There's so many great people in Detroit with great skills that are transferable from manufacturing and others. One of the things that I've learned as my 15 years as a business owner is character counts. And if you can find people with the right character, you can teach them almost anything. And we have a lot of great people in Detroit that can be taught what they need to know to really participate in this industry. Okay, I'm over. He gave me the. Thank you all so much for your attention.